Ladies and gentlemen, we're back with Season 1, Episode 7, The Reckoning. This is a weird episode, and probably the first episode where we're going to talk about episode length. Greef lays out his plan, and the whole thing makes a surprisingly large amount of sense. I say it's sad that it makes so much sense because it's so clear it's a trap. In fact, he even says this line. Poor Madagascar. A man of honor should not remain in exile. If it wasn't already obvious a trap, that gives it away completely. So then we cut to Kara doing a fight with some big guy. Interesting tether they've got there. And Mando is, of course, building a team. Can I just say, once again, how frustrating it is that we're just wasting an actual MMA fighter on this overly edited drivel? They spent 58 seconds on this stupid fight scene. And I know that sounds like, almost a solid minute, lore. But no. Picture 58 seconds of watching just edit, chop, edit, camera, chop, edit, camera, chop. Like, I had to look away from the screen for a second, no joke, because it was just sufficiently aggravating. And I want you to keep that in mind, because I want to come back to that. I do like the one thing that actually gets her in. Because it's like, I could pay, nah, I don't care. I could give it peace and quiet, yeah, I don't care. It's for the child, yeah, I don't care. I'm going to be killing imps. I'm in. Just instantly. Instantly. That's a nice touch. She mentioned this briefly in her previous thing. But you could tell she's someone who signed up to kill imps. So, yeah, no. She signs up to kill imps. Done. He also straight up offers for her to actually look at his gun racks. Yeah, okay. And of course, unfortunately, they decide to leave the kid alone in the cockpit, which goes exactly as well as you'd think it would. So now they need a third. Okay. So they go to meet Kuiil. We finally have a name, by the way, other than Ugnaught. Thanks, subtitles. I have a name, you know. There's some surprisingly good dialogue and some really good exposition, very quick and dirty here. Her surprise at him recognizing that she was a shock trooper. Him mentioning that he served on the other side, but paid off his clan's debts over 3 of your lifetimes, sold into servitude. Just some quick and dirty stuff. It's good, it's good. And then IG-11 shows back up, and we all knew that was going to happen. T? And then the episode starts to lose me for the second time, because we have a montage of him rebuilding IG. Okay. That takes a really, really long time. Like, it's a weird montage. And it starts off, and he's narrating the whole time. I brought him back, and then I could rebuild him stronger. But I don't want to spend a lot of money. So, no, I noticed that too, Hazardous. I like the droid lore here, kind of, even though it contradicts itself twice. But, I do enjoy the idea of a droid having to be taught rather than programmed, because that makes a degree of sense, just the same reason people need to be taught. But it takes a really, really, really long time to show this, even with a montage. Okay. So we go ahead and we move past that. And Kuiil has... I like Kuiil, if it's not obvious. I think a lot of people like Kuiil. But he has a line that I have to write down because it's a fantastic line. None will be free until the old ways are gone forever. Man, ain't that the truth? Like, that's what I thought Episode 8 was all about. Sorry, The Last Jedi. Just can we dump all that crap out the trash with the gunk? Sorry, I'm getting off topic. But, yeah, kill it if you have to. So we cut to them doing a arm wrestling contest, and Baby Yoda tries the Force again. I like how they continue to not call it the Force. In fact, all they've got is rumors that one of them has heard of. Now, this also is simultaneously good and bad, which so much of this show is, because it's also a fake drama moment. However, I do like how every time Kara tries to throw something at Kuiil, he just effortlessly deflects it away from her. Real quick, who do you think would have won? Mando or Kara? My money's on Kara. So, Oh, Kara was totally hustling him. I mean, I know this is going to sound like a strange statement, but there's a weirdly large amount of psychology that goes into arm wrestling. Unless you just want a real contest. If you just want to go full tilt from word go, you have to say that up front. Otherwise, you're trying to win, right? Anyways. No, Beskar isn't Tiberium yet. You can't just infuse yourself with Beskar and just get stronger. So Greef shows up. He's got a quick... Hi, Dark Prince Revan. He's got a quick vocal power play. He recognizes the drop trooper by name. Drops that really quick. Oh, God, Cortosis, don't remind me. Or what was that crap in... Vibranium. Vibranium is the other thing that can just do whatever the hell the audience wants. What's this? Oh, it's Vibranium tech. Well, how does it hover? Well, it's made of Vibranium. Well, how does it generate power? Oh, it's Vibranium engine. I'm sorry, I liked Black Panther, but holy crap. Leaning on that button a little hard. So, Greef tries a quick vocal power play, recognizes the drop trooper, says she should cover the tattoo, and recommends she hang back. I also like the new hover crib, if I might be so bold. It's not as like, episode 1 as the previous one, but it's a lot more original trilogy than the previous one. You know, functional, but kind of... I don't know. The aesthetic of it is much more crude. Maybe crude's the wrong word. I don't know what words to describe it, but it's good. I liked it, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. So Greef lays out his plan, and we know the rules of fiction. If you lay out the plan in advance, then it goes wrong. If you don't show the plan to the audience, it goes right. So he lays out the plan so we know it's going to go wrong. I do also like how his primary focus here is he's trying to get rid of the source of the money, right? You get rid of their payday and all those ex-imps are suddenly going to be out of a job. And then, well, I have a job for them. And that has a lot of implications about exactly where the Bounty Hunter Guild is getting a lot of its recruits from. Unfortunately, they are then attacked by... to continue the GM parallels... Or, sorry, the GM. God, I'm tired. I apologize. To continue the video game parallels, you can just feel the game rolled a random encounter table. All right, and they get attacked by something which has severe poison in it. And is going to kill Greef. And there's even this great line he has where he's just like, oh my god, this is how it ends. This is how it ends. They are rather lucky that Baby Yoda was there and actually knows how to do force healing. I do like how they're approaching the force in this. I do. Precision, right? This is only the third time it's actually shown up in the entire show so far. And... it also takes a fairly large amount of energy out of him to do it. Yeah, I do remember when Baby Yoda tried to use Force Heal on Mando. I remember that. Same kind of sequence. And I do like how it takes a lot out of him. And it kind of just sort of makes him the mage of the party. But that works. Jedi have always been space wizards, right? Like, this is nothing new. I also like that this is the thing that makes Greef turn. Why would I complain about Force Heal? I've played KOTOR. Hell, actually, Force Heal was in the books, too. Some people seem to forget that. Remember when Mon Mothma was super poisoned and Force Heal is what ended up curing her? Because I remember that. Yeah, level 1 mage. 1 spell slot, but you put in heal. I am with it, though. I like it. And Greef turns on his men. Shoots them both dead. The plan was to kill you and take the kid, but after last night I couldn't go through with it. Greef's a cold fish, but he's not that cold, and I kind of like that too. I kind of hope he doesn't die in the next episode, because that's very much what it feels like it's going to be a thing. Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this before. It's a humanization thing. We all have it to some extent or another, unless we're literally diseased in the head. When you... like, it's so much easier to betray someone when they're distant or when they're not related to you or whatever. But this little guy just walked up and healed him. Without even being asked to. Like, it makes a strange amount of sense, doesn't it? He was probably already having second thoughts when he picked up the baby earlier from the crib. I mean, it did. The cute baby healed him. However... yeah, no hesitation, too. Just instant. I got you. I do have to complain about one thing, though. Because the line I just said is really bad dialogue. Him whirling, shooting the two guys, and then holding up his blasters is actually all he needs to do. They should have immediately moved forward, but instead he has to explain to the audience what he just did. Like, yeah, we get it. This was clearly and obviously a trap. You don't have to. Oh my god, that's a lot of this episode in a nutshell. There's a lot of weirdly unnecessary dialogue, and it's mostly to pad out the episode, which again I'm building to a point here. So now we are told what the plan is. Now that the situation has changed, now that Greef is on their side, we have a new plan, which we are told. And per the rules of fiction, you know where that's going to go. Okay. I don't think I would have gone with no dialogue, Blake Javal, but that dialogue definitely needed a polishing pass. It's way, way too on the nose, in a bad way. The plan was to kill you and take the kid, but after last night, I couldn't go through with it. Yeah. Like, I don't have something off the top of my head. I didn't spend any time on it. But that needs a polishing pass. So, we're told the plan. Everything's about to go to hell. Perfect. I also love how they're willing to talk in fairly audible fashion immediately in front of stormtroopers. Cool. Notice the client has taken over the new headquarters, the bar, naturally. The Empire has moved in and shut down local business, as usual, because the Empire is secretly Walmart! And then the client has a line of dialogue, which feels a little strange. I'm actually with it, but the line, I wrote it down word for word. The Empire improves every system it touches, judged by any metric. Safety, prosperity, trade, opportunity, peace. Compare imperial rule to what is happening now. So, is he blind? Or is he a true believer in the cause? Because, yeah, this is just pure propaganda. Like, you first of all, we've seen Andor. But second of all, even if we haven't seen Andor, we know what this kind of thing... We know what happens when the Empire moves in and takes direct control. We've seen this 100 times in books, games, movies, and shows. They have never been quiet, exactly, about what happens when the Galactic Empire steps in and takes direct control of a system. In fact, it's a common practice that they will start off by having vassal states and then over time use excuses to move in and take direct control. They did that in Andor, and they actually did that in Rebels, I think? I forget if it was Rebels or Clone Wars, but it had to have been Rebels. Because remember, the city-state, functionally, of Mandalore was a vassal state, and then the Empire walked in and said, nah, this is ours now, right? And of course, that's relevant. Why did Mandalore resist our expansion? You get it. Either way, we finally see the real villain show up. Has his own death troopers shoot up the entire bar, killing his own people, including his own true believer. A little on the nose, but I'm more with this one. Because it's done in immediate contrast to, like, by every metric, the Empire improves everything. And then he gets shot by his own boss. I actually really like Carl Weathers here, yeah. I have since learned that he was originally slated to die in, what was that, episode 3, I want to say? And they changed their mind pretty much last minute, which apparently is something that happens often in this show, that they don't really have an outline so much as some vague ideas about where they're going with it. This song's a little too loud. Just scooch ahead here. Okay, that's too loud. I'm sure I've got another better one. I don't know, let's go down to Mario Kart. Nope, that's too loud too. Oh, here we go. This'll do. So yeah, an Imperial warlord has showed up. Cool. Yeah, you can tell he's a Vader wannabe. He pilots a TIE, wears a cape, and kills his own subordinates. Probably hazardous. So, he shows up. We actually only see him briefly. We also, and then he brings up a whole bunch of other troopers. Apparently, they brought in the 501st for this because they literally didn't have enough of the costume. They didn't have enough stormtrooper costumes to actually make this work out. So they called in the 501st and said, "Hey, can you help out?" For those of you not aware, the 501st is a real-life organization of cosplayers who maintain and do their own Stormtrooper thing. They appear at conventions and stuff like that. Anyways, so we see the stupid deployment vehicle. I can't actually remember the name of it. I used to have a book, which was the Essential Guide to Star Wars Vehicles. And it's actually where I found out about the Juggernaut, which then shows up in episode 2. And unfortunately, I don't have that book anymore. I lost it to damages when I did one of my big moves a while ago. But I recognize the damn thing. I swear to God, I recognize that little speeder they use. And I do want to say that's a nice bit of fan service, because people will notice, like, and people who don't, doesn't matter. And then something happens which really irritates me. So Mando pulls out his comm and is like, hey, no, listen. You need to get to the ship, Kuiil. I'm going to explain in great detail that we don't actually have the thing here and that you need to go to our ship immediately. Okay. Is this just open transmission? Like, nothing indicates that those 2 scout troopers were specifically tagging his comms or on his frequency, so it's acting like it's literally just radio. Like, just literally just broadcasting out to the air. And I don't want to nitpick this too much, but it's really frustrating because, yeah, Kuiil was already going to the ship, and all this does is give everything away. And you'd think that Mando would be on top of this. Remember, his instructions to Kuiil were already get back to the ship and lock it down. The only thing that's changed is get back to the ship and then get off planet. That was the only change in instruction. There's no need to just give away everything, right? And I could buy that hazardous, but you see how this is another example of because plot. Yeah, he could also do it much faster and more efficiently. He could just say one word, bail. Everyone knows what that means. Bail? Bail. So, I want to say really quick. Giancarlo Esposito is awesome. Can I just say that really quick? Like, seeing him on display there and seeing his shtick was just... He's such a great actor. I love him. I actually double-checked how to pronounce his name. Because you probably are thinking, Lord, you just pronounced it incorrectly. And that, let me tell you, one of the reasons I was late in starting the stream was because I went down a bit of a rabbit hole on how to pronounce his freaking name. Because a lot of people say Esposito. But that's actually wrong, apparently. And I have to say apparently because I'm not even 100% sure. A lot of people will say Esposito. But it's apparently supposed to be pronounced Esposito. Completely different emphasis on the vowels there. But regardless of however you pronounce his freaking last name, he is awesome. I love this actor. I love him and everything. I played through Far Cry 6 with a friend of mine, with Pax. And that game wasn't really good. I'm going to say that as nicely as I possibly can. But the one part of that game that was really, really good was him. He plays the main villain of Far Cry 6. And he nails it so hard, it's actually kind of disturbing. Oh. So it was in the kill Kuiil. No! To be continued. End episode. Let's talk about episode length. Something I actually talk about a lot is the concept of a game, because it's usually in the concept of a game. Yeah, exactly, Bonnie Punk. A game being too long or too short. And the problem is, most people, when I say that, what they are picturing in their head is like a universal metric. Like 60 hours is too long for a game. Or 5 hours is too short for a game. And both of those are wrong. Because it's always going to be specific to the game, or specific to the show, or specific to the movie. With a show like this, by all accounts, they can make the episode length however long they need to. They're not, they're not bound to the 22 or the 44 formats or the other formats that exist. But this episode felt entirely too long. And that's weird considering it wasn't particularly long. It was only 30 and some change. I have this really strong feeling that this episode was, these 2 episodes were originally just 1 episode. And then they stretched it out a little bit, right? To try and, because there's so many moments of weird padding going on. It's bizarre because, like, there's some really good stuff on display, and then they spend a minute watching her do a terribly edited fight scene, And then they have some good characterization and get some good back and forth and get some good dynamic. And then they spend like 2.5 minutes showing a montage of IG-11 learning how to walk. Yeah, exactly, 040. It's a prep episode, and I'm with the concept of a prep episode, but so much of it was dragged out to the point where I'm just sitting here like, okay, can we get on with this, please? I've been trying to point this out as we go. There's multiple examples of this throughout the episode. I mean, did you notice how long the Minoc attack happened? I know they're not Minocs. They're like some kind of pterodactyls, but like that attack goes on for a surprisingly long period of time, considering that basically nothing happens in it other than Greef is clawed at one point and is poisoned. And I know that sounds like such a minor complaint, and it is, but it kind of drags the episode down. Like, usually these kind of setup episodes are just filled with tension and impact. I'm just ready to go for the payoff. And instead, this time, I just felt like, can we get on with it, please? Which brings us to our review. Something I had to mention last night, something Jesse's Mask mentioned on my very Discord last night, but I also brought this up elsewise last night. Some people have been looking at the scores of The Mandalorian and thinking this is a bad show, and if they are thinking it, then I have not been doing my job correctly. So I'm going to say this for like the 100,000th time. This yellow is not bad. In fact, by definition, yellow is good. Yeah, it is an unfortunate reality that we're comparing this alongside two of the best shows I've ever covered. Yeah, when we get down to blue, that's when we've hit bad territory. Even green is just not good, right? Yeah, no, exactly, Dakota. It's the 6 out of 10 is bad thing. No. Having said that, talking about this episode in specific, because of all the issues I had with several of the obviousness and some of the presentation, I think this actually is pulled down to a yellow. This should probably be an orange, but the issues and the padding drag it. I honestly think if this episode was about 10 minutes shorter, it would just nail that orange marker. But for me, not quite. Remember, I feel like I just said this, yellow is still good. Quite possibly Blade 2L, because you're right. Like I have evidence upon evidence upon evidence that going great from something great to something terrible doesn't really change my scoring on either. But I have spoken. I would also agree that I'm sure some of the shows that come after this are as good as they are because intelligent and talented people looked at Mandalorian and said, okay, here was the stumbling steps, right? Here's the things that could have been polished up. Like we were just talking about with the dialogue from Greef. It's not really bad dialogue, it needs a polishing pass. We'll have fun at work. And yes, it's time to go and hit the finale. Season 1, Episode 8, Redemption. Who's getting redeemed? Vader just shows up out of nowhere. No, for real. I'll see you guys in a minute.